Hello, and good afternoon. I'm Lindley Hinserling, and with me I have Amit Shah from Amazon, AWS, and Shai Peretz from Riskified, and Ajul Hadwavan from Freewheel. So we've got a great talk today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the pressures of AI, ML, and what we have to do to really apply it in the real world. So there's an extreme pressure to exploit this new technology, but it has a countervailing issue of cost that comes with it, and the need for ever more data to be applied. And we've got a number of people here with us today that struggle with this and deal with it and solve this problem every day. And we'll get into that as we go into the presentation. But AI can be a great cost savings in terms of what you can do with it, how you can make your business more efficient, but it comes with expense in the real world in terms of the computing power, the storage you need to use it effectively. So it's interesting to look at some of the stats on how much computing consumes of overall electrical consumption. It's gone from 1% to 2% in 2018, and this is like in a very few years. And then in 2030, it'll be in the multiple digits, 8 to 21%. Training an AI model uses a ton of carbon. And then the industry in general is bigger than the airline industry in its energy consumption. But we save a lot from applying technology to the problems of the world. And I say it that broadly, that AI is going to solve many problems, including energy consumption. But we have to be conscious at the same time of spending that. And a lot of that is dealing with the massive amounts of data that have to be applied. Okay, and it's massive amounts in generating the LLMs, but also in the operational data that has to be affected by the application of LLMs. And so we're constantly, as enterprises, ingesting data all the time, because none of this is of great value unless we can apply it in near real time. One of my jokes, had a long career in tech, I feel like I've been chasing the present forever, okay? What we're trying to do is have context for what's happening right now and be able to apply it right now, okay? So being able to ingest, to build models, to apply those models in real time to get answers as things happen, but with the context that's required to give an accurate answer given the state of the world, the state of your business. So you're going to hear from two of our presenters today about how they use Aerospike as a feature store and why they chose to use it. And it's a question of efficiency in being able to apply more data in a decisioning process in a time-constrained SLA. And then offline stores where you're constantly ingesting new data, both for training but ingesting data that's happening now that you're going to apply those features against to make decisions. And the closer you get to synchronizing all of that, the better outcomes you have. And there's always the metadata about the data you have that you have to keep track of. So Quantcast is a company that uses us for these. And you know, they have 10 billion records. Store data of 8 terabytes and applying that for the historical contextual stuff, and then get lookups in 1 millisecond so that they're never very far behind what the customer's doing, or the data they have on the customer, or the data they have on the context. We also have an e-commerce provider that is in Japan, who's a fashion provider, and they have to provide the context in real time, but they have to be able to know that Taylor Swift changed the color of sweater she wears, so that they put that up in the basket rather than the one she wore last week. All of this takes a complete data platform. So we have an amazing real-time database, but that's not the complete story, because we have to provide the ability to fit that database into an overall data pipeline with multiple points of ingestion. Every one of our customers has many, many different components that are coming in, and you also have to be able to shovel that data to where it needs to go for learning, and then be able to apply it. We've recently added a graph capability with all those same characteristics. We're also working on vector, and we'll do vector a little differently because we care about this time-bound SLA and the ability to apply whatever data type you're using to drive decisioning. So think RAG, okay, and being able to apply that in real time against the database of vectors that is commensurate with the context that you have to apply to the generalized LLMs. So we also care about efficiency and have exploited Graviton. You'll hear a little bit more about that from Amit. And we're architected for efficiency. Now, the big thing that we're focused on is being able to take advantage of whatever instance types, whatever types of networking that the cloud providers are giving to us, and exploit that. But we do it with the ability to scale out, to scale up, with specific technology that we have. And we support geo-distributed transactions. So think synchronous active-active. So we can do transactions West Coast to East Coast on Amazon. We do this today for payment providers, where that you can lose a whole region, you can lose a whole data center, and it keeps working and no data is lost. And we have massive parallelism. And this is at the heart of our ability to support the tremendous throughput that you'll hear about from Shai and Ujjwal. So with that, I'm going to ask Amit to come up.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Hey, my name is Amit Shah. I lead the product management for AWS EC2 products. And about 3 years back, when I joined AWS, I was working on storage and memory technologies given my background. And one of the first things that I was asked to do was figure out what are the most stringent use cases for memory and storage, who really stresses them, and then figure out a way to optimize them. And guess what? The people that I worked with are sitting here in the room, Srini, Lindley. I worked with them over the last 3 years because they really, like latency is super, super critical for them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that journey has been, Aerospike in AWS, and how we have partnered together to bring real-time use cases for our customers. So based on what Lindley already talked about on the various customer needs, and the fact that Aerospike wants to embrace machine learning and generate AI, AWS was an obvious choice. When it comes to performance, Aerospike is a real-time database who cares about very high throughput at very low latency. On top of it, you add the fact that you want to add machine learning capabilities, which is integrated through the store offering as well as VectorDB. They wanted a high-performance cloud to meet their customer requirements. Dealing with millions of transactions per second, or sometimes I in fact have worked with the Aerospike customers who are dealing with billions of transactions per second at a at a millisecond or less amount of latency is core to their business and to their customers. And that is where AWS really comes in with the variety of offerings that we have. So from a performance perspective, how do we deliver all this transaction that can scale up based on demand and can meet the customer SLA? So that is important. But not only performance, from a customer perspective, they also want to make sure that the cost is optimized. Ultimately, Aerospike, the idea of Aerospike is that they want to deliver highest performance at the best price performance advantage. So that was core to how we want to enable Aerospike on AWS, delivering leadership performance, delivering leadership cost profile. Apart from that, the customers that use Aerospike on AWS, they deal with tons of data, meaning you're talking about petabytes of data and the scale of transactions that I already talked about. So when you have so much amount of data to be crunched, not only you need good processors and a significant amount of memory and storage, you also need network and high throughput network, low latency network, so that you can deal with all these transactions. And that is where AWS Nitro system also brings its own advantages. The last thing, Aerospike wanted to make sure that the cloud provider enables their solution globally and can be secure and reliable, meaning their customers are they have variety of use cases across financials, manufacturing, real-time, edtech, and all of these customers, they have footprint all across the globe. So for them, they need to have ability to scale across the globe to meet their end user reach. And that was, again, important for them. So as far as AWS is considered, we offer Aerospike and their end customers many choices. Choices in terms of what we can deliver in computing capabilities. Here, when I say computing capabilities, I'm talking about selection of processors, the amount of memory capacity that you can have, the memory ratio so that you can optimize for cost, storage, networking choices. We are talking about operating system, payment options, payment plans. So there are many choices integrated into all our offerings. In fact, we have one of the richest portfolio of products within cloud, with more than 750 instances available on cloud today. Apart from that, when we have a modern EC2 instance, which is built with AWS Nitro system, then it does support highest possible compute performance. What I mean by that is that a EC2 instance with AWS Nitro system will deliver up to 15% more compute performance compared to a comparable instance from another cloud provider which does not have AWS Nitro. So there is definitely an advantage that you get in terms of price performance and performance benefits. So as far as the journey of Aerospike is considered, considering that they are a real-time database use case, the two big things Aerospike cares about is high throughput at a given latency. And while meeting an SLA of about 200 microseconds. So given the fact that latency is so important and latency variability is so important, they wanted to make sure that the storage aspects of our offering, it's such that it can meet their SLA as well as optimize the TCO for their customer. The journey of Aerospike started with AWS using their core database. That is still predominant. That is still the predominant usage of Aerospike on AWS for our mutual customers. That said, over a period of time, as Lenley mentioned, they have enabled Aerospike Cloud, Graph, and VectorDB on AWS as well. So the offerings have just gotten richer, where more options are provided to our customers. In terms of the instances itself, I4I, EC2 instance I4I and I3EN are the workhorses. They are able to process millions of transactions per second, and while providing very low latency. So these are the real popular instances that run Aerospike use cases. Apart from that, when we were developing Nitro SSD, so AWS Nitro SSD is our own custom-built storage solution. And I remember when I joined AWS and we started looking into, okay, how do we make sure that our Nitro or storage solution are really going to meet the most stringent requirements that are available or being run on AWS Cloud. And one of the use cases that really came across was the Aerospike's real-time database use case. So here we wanted to make sure that the latency and the latency variability is as tight as possible. And for that, Aerospike had created something called ACT, Aerospike Certification Tool Test, to test the storage latency. So we partnered with Aerospike and we optimized our Nitro SSD specifically for Aerospike use case, where the new generation Nitro SSD based instances offer up to 4 times ACT compared to previous generation i3 instance, or up to 2 times ACT per drive compared to previous generation i3EN instance. So generally a lot of work had gone in to really make sure that we can optimize these use cases for Aerospike. Not only that, we were able to reduce our latency significantly such that Aerospike was able to see 70% more performance for a given latency, which ended up resulting in 25% improvement for customer TCO, which was a huge benefit for the end customer. So that was great as well. And our partnership with Aerospike does not really end here. We worked with Aerospike on enabling Graviton, which delivers the highest compute performance in cloud, as well as delivers the best price performance. So a lot of work has been gone in to enable those solutions. So if you do want to benefit from highest performance, you have sustainability goals, then Aerospike with Graviton would be an awesome solution. And apart from that, as Aerospike continues to engage with machine learning and embracing that technology, we would be partnering with them to make sure that all the future offering are integral part of how Aerospike is optimized on AWS. Given that, I would like to invite Shai from Riskified. Sorry, Shai. Here you go.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. So nice to meet you. My name is Shai, and I actually fill in for Guy, who's supposed to be here today, and he prepared the session and everything, though because of the situation in Israel, he couldn't make it and asked me to fill in for him. So I hope that I will do justice to his short session. I'll talk a little bit about Riskified, what we do. It works. So Riskified is a company that exists for the last 10 years or so, a little bit more than 10 years, and went public 2 years ago. We have about 750 employees. Most of them are in Tel Aviv office, but the rest are spread around the world. We have a big office. The headquarters is actually here in New York. And we're spread about 180 countries where we provide services to customers. We deal with a lot of transactions per day and a lot of GMV that we actually provide services to, which I'll go into in a second. And we have very, very good retention rate. And I think part of it is because of the architecture and because the business model that we have developed over the years. You can see the list of some of our customers. We mainly provide services to very, very big merchants around the world that have a lot of traffic. And it's nice to talk about it in Cyber Monday, which is probably the highest. Well, there's a competition between last Friday and today, which one is the highest traffic day for those merchants and obviously for us. So the fact that I can stand here and not in the war room or something is good. It means that the system is reliable and stable and so on. So what we do, we have a platform of services that helps all those merchants fight fraud. We collect all the customer data which is related to the orders. We get all the information from all the customers, and we run our magic around it in order to say for each one of the transaction if the transaction is fraudulent or not. If it is, we will say so to the merchant and they will decline the transaction, and we also take the liability, which means that if we decline the transaction, sorry, the opposite. If we said the transaction is good, it's okay, and it's eventually a bad transaction and it's fraud, we will pay for it. In order to be able to support this level of liability and responsibility, we have to be very, very accurate and to trust our system. So this is why we had to architect it in a way that we can trust it so much. This decline approve of deals is what we call chargeback guarantee, which is our main product. We also have in the platform, that's not for me, we have some other products that complete the platform, which deals with preventing account takeovers, protecting abuse of policies in customers. For example, if they want to limit the number of items that they sell in a certain geography, or if they want to fight people that ship back empty boxes, for example, or fill them with sand and send them back. All kinds of things like that happen. And we know a lot about the identity of the customers, and we are able to identify what's the probability that this will happen. And when it happens, we signal to the customers, and they can fight it and can prevent this form of fraud as well. In order to do that, obviously, we collect huge amounts of data from all the customers. We link all this data together, and I think that one of the biggest effects that we have is what we call the network effect, which enables us to try and look in all the data from all customers and identify if there's someone which is believed to be a fraudster or abuser of a policy. So we have all those domains. This is a very schematic figure of how it works, what the flow and what the problems that we're trying to solve. It's just a very little flow from all what we do. But this is the one where we chose to adopt Aerospike as a solution to begin with. We are fairly new partners with Aerospike for the last 2 years. And I think it brings a lot of value, as you will see. And hopefully we'll be able to use it in other use cases as well. So domain services are all the data collection that we do, integration with all the customers, bring the data in. All this data goes into our platform, and we need to be able to provide this recommendation of decline or approve in real time. Why real time? Because we have some customers like Grubhub or DoorDash, which needs their answer right now. Otherwise, it will not be relevant. Some other customers don't care so much, so it can come a little bit later. So it could be like online or a little bit offline. We do all this in an order flow. We created what we call OFE, which is order flow event, which is signaling the status of the order on its way to production, what we need to do with it. And we needed to create some kind of a source of data that will be one source of truth for everything that we do with the data later on. This goes both to the live and online systems, like the real-time decisions, and it goes to the model training. A lot of what we do relies on model training, AI models, and obviously it should go to the billing and should speak the same language because it should be very, very accurate. You bill for exactly the transaction that we processed and everything. And the rest goes to the BI systems, to the data lake, and then the BI system. So we can use it for financial services, business analytics, and so on. If I take a look, a little bit of a deeper look into the architecture, this is where we actually, about 2 or 3 years ago, we came to the conclusion that the previous technologies and architecture that we use will not scale and will not bring it to where we need it to be. And we started to look for solutions and happily found Aerospike as a good solution for those situations. So again, we have the service domains there in the left, collecting all the data. Then it goes via Kafka into our OFE events processor. And this is kept as practically as raw data to the first instance of Aerospike, which is really, really fast and reliable and really provide a very good solution for that. From there, we have all the services that we use in order to enrich the data, aggregate the order journey, and everything that we need to do with the data in order to process it and prepare it for the next steps. Then it goes and being stored in another instance of Aerospike. From there, we can provide the services of real-time data decisions and ML model training, and this is like a loop, closed loop that goes together and provide better accuracy over time. And when we talk about like AI models, we train a lot of models. We have high segmentations because we have very spread amount of customers from all different geographies and from all different spaces. So you need a solution for each one, and even for the same